Enki's followers, however, were taught something Enlil's slaves were never even hinted at: the power of shamanism. In the beginning, Enki had them build small communities with cabins close to running water where there was an abundance of foodstuff. And the tribe thrived and learned a lot from their teacher. They still had to work hard, but these tribes, who consisted both of enhanced Neanderthalensis and Homo erectus, were mostly working for themselves and their own communities. In the middle of each community was one or more shamanic woman, who knew how to connect their fire with the 96%, which became the most important part of each group. Then, the shamans, who sometimes also could be males, taught others whom they saw had the drive and urge to become shamans themselves. So, these early humans, who followed the ways of Enki, also followed the bold ways of shamanism and the religion of the mother goddess and the divine feminine. In the midst of every tribe was a female, and there were those she had selected to become initiates in the Sisterhood of the Snake, which was a closed society. The creation of such was indeed the sore thumb that stood out in a group which otherwise was doing excellent under the circumstances. By having an elite group amongst the rest of the people, who were not allowed to take part of what was taught in this secret society, was indeed the beginning of an unfortunate elitism, which would ripple out through the lines of time. This is how it started, and with time it became more and more ego-centered, and offshoots to this society were eventually created by those who wanted to know, but were not allowed access to the inner secrets, and therefore stole information from the original society. Then using it as a secret to create their own sisterhoods and brotherhoods, which became more and more corrupt as time went by. Enki could have foreseen this, but his idea was that humans are stupid, except for a selected few who are smart enough to learn some of the secrets of their own history and that of the universe. Much later on, Enki and those who wanted to follow him, some were contempt and wanted to stay where they were, migrated westward and settled down on a big continent in the west, which at that time was located between Europe and the American East Coast. This continent, which no longer exists in our reality, has best been remembered under the name of Atlantis. Here, Enki was the king, although he let female shamans run their tribes, having their own sovereignty. But Enki was the coordinator and ultimate authority, more so with time than he was to begin with. In Atlantis, he became known in future history as Poseidon, in Greece, and Neptune, in Rome. The Enkian shamanic tribes that moved to Mu, whom I will simply call the Lemurians, were practicing the religion of the mother goddess and did so in relative peace. They knew better than interfering with neither the Enlilites, the Ram clan, nor the Enkites, the Serpent clan, and the petty wars that were eventually going to be played out on the planet between the two groups. The Lemurians were a mix of Project Elohim, the upgraded Homo neanderthalensis, and Project Erectus, the upgraded Homo erectus, none of them being today's Homo sapiens, who were actually not created until after the deluge, contrary to what many researchers believe. However, Project Erectus is the direct ancestors of today's humans. They looked the same, but were taller, while Project Elohim were shorter, more intelligent, and naturally more spiritually inclined. Although the first humans, both of Project Elohim and Erectus, were dark-skinned long before Lemurian times, both white-skinned and black-skinned humans existed from both projects. So, before we continue following Enki's and Enlil's escapades, we are going to see what the Enkian shamans who moved eastwards created in Mu. We are also going to see what happened when they suddenly were visited both by benevolent and malevolent giants of impressive stature, some of them building the huge stone monuments from which there are still ruins, both on the Easter Islands, in Polynesia, Hawaii, and elsewhere. But first, before we even go into that story, we need to look into who Lord Enki really was a little closer, and what his true intentions were. How benevolent was this being, really?